as the two meals theory is getting more and more popular and hundreds of people are getting so much of reduction of fat and weight through this theory and this normal eating plan, let us understand the science behind it. To understand the science, you have to understand these two most important hormones which are secreted by our body, insulin and glucagon. These are the two hormones secreted by the gland pancreas. Dr. Himsworth, almost 80 years back, did a research and found in that research that insulin, higher level of insulin, is the most important factor for most diseases. This research was not carried forward and we started living our life, and most of the people were getting all these lifestyle disorder diseases like blood pressure and diabetes and cholesterol and obesity. In 1988, Dr. Raven, he carried this research forward and again came to a conclusion that high level of insulin is the single most factor for most diseases. Even the American Heart Association, in its official statement, released that when compared to the other risk factors, high level of insulin is the statistically significant factor in most heart attack risk. When it's compared to smoking or stress, insulin levels was the most significant factor for any heart attack or heart diseases. All these things are causing due to high levels of insulin. And who's responsible for this? It's our lifestyle. Our lifestyle is responsible for these diseases. High level of insulin results into high cholesterol in our body. High level of insulin results into converting our food into fats. High level of insulin is responsible for diabetes. High level of insulin is responsible for blocking arteries. High level of insulin is responsible for most diseases. Who's responsible for this? It's our eating. The way we are living our life is responsible for that. Whenever we eat, insulin is released, insulin is secreted. Imagine the entire day, early morning when we get up and have a cup of tea with a spoon of sugar, insulin is secreted. When we go and have a breakfast, insulin is secreted. When we have a lunch, insulin is released. In between, someone gives you a prasad or maybe a birthday cake and you eat, insulin is released. Evening snack, you eat, insulin is released. Dinner, insulin is released. After dinner, when you go for a walk and then you have a dessert or ice cream, insulin is released. The more and more we eat, the frequency we eat, insulin is released. And there's excess of insulin. And when there's excess of insulin, fat cannot be burned. The average rate of insulin should be 0 unit. Unless and until when the insulin becomes 0, your fat cannot be burned. To understand, you have to understand these two hormones, as I told you. One is insulin, one is glucagon. And glucagon is the most important factor, most important hormone which burns fat. And it comes into picture and it is released by our body only when the insulin levels are 0 or lower. So when you stop eating for some time, 4 hours, 6 hours or 8 hours, then the insulin levels become 0 and the glucagon is released. And when the glucagon released, glucagon is responsible to go inside your system and burn that fat. So when you eat this 2-meal theory, once you eat in the morning and then you have a gap of 8 hours or 6 hours or 10 hours, during this moment then the insulin is higher when you eat, then the insulin level drops, and when the insulin level goes to 0, glucagon is released into your system and glucagon is responsible for burning all that fat. And then again on the second meal when you eat, again the insulin level goes up, and in some hours the insulin goes down, and when your next meal comes, it's almost 12 hours. In that 12 hours your glucagon is working. Your glucagon is responsible for burning your fat. What happens in most of the time, we keep on eating, and the glucagon is never released. He's waiting. When are you releasing me to burn that fat? And that's why this theory of only 2 meals is working, because once we eat, insulin is released, then it drops and the glucagon is released. The glucagon burns fat. And so if you really want to lose that fat, you need to make sure glucagon is released into your system and your insulin levels are lower. And that's why this 2-meal theory works. The moment you eat any food, insulin level is higher. Insulin is secreted and it stays secreted for 1 hour. Within that hour, you can eat anything within 55 minutes. After every hour, some research has shown that the insulin is secreted. It has an hour. It doesn't depend on the amount of food you eat. It depends upon the frequency. So once you start your first meal, finish it within 55 minutes. When you do your second meal, finish within 55 minutes. And when you eat that meal, your insulin level is higher, then it starts dropping, and then your glucagon is released. So invite glucagon to be released into your system and drop your insulin level. If you just understand this concept of carbo-insulin theory, this logic, I think reducing fat and staying fitter is going to be amazing. You're going to enjoy this process. It's not a diet, it's a way of living. Just 2 meals a day. And its science is proven that not only your fat gets lost, not only you lose weight, but you can stay away from many diseases when you can control your insulin and when you can get your insulin levels low. So if you want to live a beautiful, holistic life, eat small, the frequency has to be 2, only twice. And just see the changes in your system and the energy which you'll generate through your own body. Love you all so much.